Morning, Gamecock fans. Today is Thursday, July 24th, the year of our Lord 2025, and this is Coffee with JC Shurburtt. Thanks for joining me this morning. Always a pleasure and an honor to sit here and talk Gamecocks in the morning with all of you guys. For those maybe tuning in for the first time, that are getting familiar with the content here on the Chief Sports Network, thebigspur.com, all of that. Coffee is sort of the straight over tackle, nitty gritty, straight football talk. And then we have the morning show with Jamie Bradford that's live. And that's got a lot of guests. Just to kind of, if you like interviews with different guests and different notable people around Gamecock land, that show is amazing. Jamie does a great job interviewing. And I did want to plug the hour and 30-minute interview with Carolina football director of player personnel, Darren Usher, that is up on our YouTube channel, commercial free, as kind of a cut up version of the show. It's got all the meat and potatoes in it. Every word Darren said yesterday, and they ran the gamut. They went recruiting, personnel. It's a great preview for this season. Great insight into what's going on with Carolina football. So it's long, so it may take you a little while to get through it, but I encourage everybody to go check that out up on our YouTube channel. Shout out to our producer, Phil Mad Dog Mullinax, for getting that cut up and up right away yesterday. But it wasn't expected to go that long. Rob Williams from SEC Sunday Night, who will actually be on today's episode of the morning show, was in the green room, so to speak, ready to roll with his segment. And Jamie texted and said, "Look, man, it's killing. We're killing it right here with Darren." So it just kept going, and I know I learned a lot from the interview, and you guys could learn a lot as well. And not just learning like you guys are and gals that out there that are listening. If you're listening to this show, you probably do a lot of your own research and stuff when it comes to Gamecock football. So I'm not saying go learn something. I'm basically saying, this is great if you love the Gamecocks and you want to consume all the Gamecock content you have. And it's not the same old with people like me talking. And I try not to filter things, but it's human nature. So I encourage you to do that. It's the raw goods. What a great interview. And he said a lot of cool stuff yesterday, and that's going to kind of be part of our topic today. We're going to dig into recruiting. We don't have many more days to where we can just kind of deal with recruiting because July is kind of when it all sort of ends. There's some announcements in August these days, and then we turn our focus to the season more and more with football. Oh, and coffee is just football. I think I tell the story early on. I think this is the 122nd episode of Coffee. I think episode 4, I talked basketball, and I got half the audience I normally do. And we'll throw that in and baseball too when those seasons are in or briefly mention it. We usually kind of do the morning announcements at the beginning here on Coffee when those teams are in season. We'll give score updates and a little commentary. Sometimes it goes longer, but we always have a football topic. It's Gamecock football year round right here on Coffee. And then after the morning show, and today's guest list, by the way, Rob Williams is coming in from SEC Sunday Night, but also two big time guests, Hale McGranahan from thebigspur.com will come in. I'm sure he'll talk some recruiting and also team notes. And then you have Brad Crawford from CBS Sports /247. Brad's the king of the lists, not afraid to shake it up. A lot of familiarity with the Gamecock program, ranks quarterbacks. So I'm sure that topic will come up as well with Brad. And it's always a great sit down with Brad. Brad's a good human being, one of my favorite people. Don't always agree with him, certainly. Sometimes, I disagree strongly with his takes, but I'm sure he disagrees with other people's, and that's what's great about our country and all that. As an individual, though, human being, he's tremendous. He's a great person, very caring person, good family guy. Can't say enough good about Brad. So he's coming up. And then there's the show. And again, for those that may just be tuning in, I want to kind of explain this. I'm on the show with Phil, the Mad Dog. It is more, and I'm just gonna be honest because I don't want people to get disappointed. It's in the afternoon. I have a little bit different style that I use, more casual when I approach that. It's not as much nuts and bolts. We will get off topic in a heartbeat. It's supposed to be kind of casually entertaining. We do talk a lot of football. We have the chat box. If you're on Wednesdays, we have wide open Wednesday. And yesterday was busy in the chat box because anybody can get in. If you're a club chief member and you can join that, it's $4.99 a month right here on the YouTube channel. You get access to the chat box every single day. We did that because we're getting spam in the chat box. And then, of course, your basic desire to always monetize your business. It's very hard to do that uh, when you do what we do with this type of content, but not that much. And you get some other perks as well. We had a tailgate last year that was a lot of fun, and some things like that. You get some scheduled emails and a newsletter and stuff like that at times too. So join Club Chief if you want to get in the chat box. But getting back to the show. Um, yeah, I don't want, and I got some feedback on this. It's like, well, this is different than it's supposed to be, because my feeling on my end is that's kind of, you know, I don't want to just do 30, 40 minutes in the morning and then 2 hours later the same thing with me talking to Mad Dog about the depth chart. That would get boring in a hurry. So it's supposed to be different. We have a lot of off-topic conversations. We're into this thing now daily where we do there's an Instagram account called VHS Dates. It's from the 80s when single people my age had to sit in front of the video camera and record you didn't have Match.com or anything back then, and you had to record a video, and it's kind of like the dating game, but real cringy. And so we have fun and talk about that and other like non-Gamecock sports topics. And the poll du jour, the poll of the day from the bigspur.com is a Gamecock topic, usually in football, and we talk that. So it's a nice blend, but I don't want I want you to listen to the show, obviously, tune in as much as you want. But I wanted to kind of explain. It's on podcast version too for those that check this on the Inside the Gamecocks pod channel. But I don't want you to get, they're two different products, media products, coffee and the show. And wanted to explain that to people out there because I love my audience, both of them, all of them. And if you're new, I don't want you to be disappointed and think, well, gosh, JC, he's different on in the afternoons, like I'm a vampire. Oh, it's getting closer to sundown, so I'm a different person. I'm changing. Oh, anyway, so that's all the housekeeping for today. Don't forget the Gamecocks do have a recruiting target announcing Saturday night. Kosi Barnes from Greensboro, North Carolina, Greensboro Grimsley, I believe, is his high school, a big corner. Carolina and Miami, also Kentucky, Mississippi State are in the mix. But I did get some feedback the other day that it's Miami that's been making a push. We'll see what happens. Gamecocks are pretty confident with that one, but you never know these days, right, folks? Tennessee was very confident about Kamari Blair, and that didn't happen. And Pierre Dean, when he went to Georgia, the Gamecocks woke up in the morning and thought they were in good shape to get him, although that one did go back and forth. But Barnes is a good player. It's another North Carolina prospect. And that will kind of start our review of the recruiting board because, we're at the point now, like I said, we're getting close to August. Practice starts. Not There's recruits that come by practice, obviously, and watch and stuff like that, but they're getting ready for their high school football seasons, and their senior year of high school, junior year of high school, whatever it may be. So it's kind of just a stop by, watch us practice, meet and greet kind of thing. And that happens. But there's not a heavy recruiting period. Then the season starts, and Carolina's got 2 night games coming up in September, so I expect big crowds. of recruits in for that one. I mean, South Carolina State and then Vanderbilt in the SEC opener. But the atmospheres at Williams-Brice, I mean, honestly, I watched a video a couple of days ago of 2001 for the Akron game last year. That was a night home game. It was fantastic. It was as good as maybe, 10 years ago when Carolina was maybe playing like a Kentucky at home. Maybe let's go 13, 14 years because that Kentucky game got bigger and bigger as they started winning. But good crowds, regardless of the opponent. I think that starting in 2022, give yourselves a hand. Gamecock, Gamecock Nation was has shown up. I think during the year after the pandemic, Beamer's first year, we still had a lot going on with COVID and stuff. Crowds were probably a little lighter than they normally are, just because people didn't want to get in crowds. I don't blame them. That's fine. But starting in 22, man, you guys have shown up. I mean, the leanest crowd was probably South Carolina State, but that was one of those games that because of weather was moved up to a Thursday night, and not everybody can take off work Friday and go and enjoy the game. East Upper was very not very crowded on TV that night, but so be it. The crowds have been great, and you guys that go to the games out there, say what you want about the Gamecock Nation. And there was some concern, I can tell you, in 2021 about, oh, have we lost everybody? But no, yeah, that's not true. You guys show up loud and proud, and it's one of the very best things about South Carolina football, and always has been. Probably the best. Through time, if you ask anybody what the best thing about South Carolina football is, it's the support that the fans give. It's a great rabid fan base. You're my people. You're a bunch of great people. Can't say enough good about the crowds, and that feeds into recruiting because these kids come and it's just like last year. You lay the groundwork for 2026, really during the 2024 season, and 2027, which is going to feature a loaded crop of in-state players. At least so far, there's a lot of 2027s ranked in the 24/7 Sports Top 247. You got to start laying that groundwork, man, and trying to get guys in the boat. It starts during the season. It's very, very important. I say it all the time. The atmospheres in 22 with, even though Nick Harbor officially visited for that Georgia disaster when they beat Carolina 48-7 at Williams-Brice, that was bad. And a noon kickoff. Yeah, that was his official visit. Where did he end up? South Carolina. You keep moving forward. Guys like Dylan Stewart visited for games that season. The A&M game, the Tennessee game was huge that night. There was a lot of orange in the stands. It was an electric atmosphere as the Gamecocks pulled off an improbable 63-38 win. The Kentucky game at the end of 23, as disappointing as that season was, the Darude game, it's fantastic atmosphere, lots of recruits on campus. So that's where you lay the groundwork, and that's going to start happening here pretty soon. But the first order of business is, still this 2026 class. Now, I'm not saying that by the time the season starts, 2026 is just going to lock into place. It's not. They're going to try to flip guys. We're going to get into that a little bit, like who could they possibly flip? And the names are familiar. They're going to try to go identify players. If somebody's a good senior riser like Christian Ingram, Darren Usher mentioned him yesterday. He looks like $1 zillion, 6'6", 310, true freshman defensive lineman, was sort of off the radar in the state of Georgia and Carolina and Georgia and Colorado and lots of these other schools jumped in, and Carolina won that late battle. You got him. They flipped the offensive tackle who's committed to Georgia Tech. They flipped Malik Clark. I mean, so this class isn't done just because the season starts, but it's kind of it'll enter a new phase where you're kind of rounding out, and then getting kind of your ideas together for the transfer portal. And that's kind of it evolves, if you will. But before it evolves, there's work to be done, and that are prospects to be had. How about that? And it starts with Kosi Barnes on Saturday night. Like I said, Miami is making made a push. They're the kind of the other team. Kentucky, Mississippi State are also there, so two SECs, and then the University of Miami are in with him. Torian Gray's done a really good job here. TheBigSpur.com will be covering it. Alex Jones, who we'll have today on the show with Gamecock Smorgasbord, will be in attendance for that announcement. But you never know. Don't count your chickens before they hatch with any recruit these days. So tune in for that announcement. So we talked about him. Amari Thomas, who was part of the discussion here and on the show when he decommitted from Florida State. Now, I warned everybody, don't Landon Duckworth, although it was a longer period of time, technically, recommitted, had an announcement to recommit. I've seen that happen before. So just because Amari Thomas decommitted from Florida State does not mean, and I'll admit too, I think he's trending towards South Carolina. I think that's factual right now. And by the way, Amari Thomas is a 5'10", 190-pound, 200-pound running back from Blountstown, Florida, right outside of Tallahassee. 24/7 sports composite, low 4-star prospect, good player, speed back, fits exactly what Marquell Blackwell and Mike Schuler are looking for at running back this go around. And so, they've been on him for a while. And he officially visited, and it's been ominous for the Noles since then, and he officially decommits. So we'll see kind of how that goes. But I do believe the Gamecocks are trending. But, there's been talk August 9th, round about that area. I think that's my mother-in-law's birthday. I think we're going to Chinatown to celebrate her birthday, her 80th birthday on that day. So maybe we'll celebrate Vara and get a commitment from Amari Thomas all on the same day. Who knows? But I think things are looking good with the caveat with him that anything could happen. And Colorado offered him the other day. That Colorado's high school recruiting hadn't been all that great, but they tend to, Dion and those guys tend to love to get into battles with South Carolina, don't they? But that said, and for a kid from Tallahassee, Deion Sanders is going to mean something. Don't get me, no, let's not get it twisted. That's prime, and this Tallahassee kid. That said, I think the Gamecocks are in pretty good shape. Certainly would be a big pickup for this class, running back wise, at least high school running back wise. And I tell everybody, when they get on Marquell Blackwell about not recruiting, I really don't know what people expect. When he got here, and there was already 3 portal backs committed in Attaway and Rocket and Jawarn Howell, and they added Matthew Fuller, and he's done well in the portal, getting Faison and Augustov. By the way, it's Augustov. I've been saying Augustov because Gus Johnson on the Colorado broadcast last year said Augustov, but it's Augustov. So I don't know what the problem is. I've told everybody that in 2027 you have Segura and Aiden Thomas, kid from Woodruff, Aiden Harris. I don't know, man. Gosh, I need to just write these down. But sometimes I don't know who I'm going to talk about. Aiden is his first name. He's from Woodruff, right there in Spartanburg County. There's a running back at Spartanburg High School that's good too. But when you're judging, can you recruit or not? It gets kind of you're kind of in the black. Even if you lose a Carson Baker, and he never even visited. He went to Florida out of Atlanta, your top pick or whatever. And even if Amari Thomas sticks with Florida State, which I don't expect at this point, but he may. Even if you do that, right? It doesn't really get into the red where you kind of start to question it until you lose in-state targets. And then, and not just that, if you lose them, losing them to Clemson, or if a kid wants to cross the border and go to Georgia, that's going to happen. I said that. I've said that many times. That doesn't mean you're not a good recruiter. It just means, some schools that are very attractive that are in the area came in and plucked you away. But if you lose to somebody else, that kind of gets in the red area. There's usually reasons for that, but it's if you're going to judge it, judge Marquell Blackwell on that one, right? On those two, because that we haven't had a bunch of good running backs in the state in a while. I mean, Tavian Feaster, who played at Clemson and South Carolina. Before there was a transfer portal. How about that? He's a graduate transfer that came to South Carolina for his senior year after playing at Clemson. He was the last five-star back. He's from Spartanburg High School in the state. Maybe the last. Gosh, I'm trying to think if there was another running back. So it's not. There's been guys that have gone to small schools that have done well. That kid from Florence that went to Chattanooga a few years back was really good. I remember watching him against Kentucky one day. It was, I think, 2021. And Kentucky has, during that period, Kentucky was playing Carolina the next week. And during that point in time, Kentucky would have this one game every year when they played their garbage non-conference schedule. No offense to Louisville, that they would struggle for some reason, and they struggled. Like Chattanooga could have beaten them. I think Lorenzo Ward was on that Chattanooga staff, but the running back that they had on that team was from Florence, and he was really good. So there's been guys like that, but we haven't had, in this state. You go back, Stephen Davis, Brandon Bennett, Bernard Rambert that went to Clemson was a highly regarded recruit. You've had running backs through the years in the state of South Carolina. It's kind of been a drought. That happens sometimes. Now, there's been historically more offensive linemen, but the running back position until this coming year, there hasn't been a Marcus Lattimore or anybody like that. Tavian was the only one. And so it is what it is in a lot of ways. But next cycle, 2027, is very important, and the Gamecocks and Blackwell are all over them. But, I think obviously as far as silencing the critics, which really doesn't matter, but I think getting Amari Thomas, flipping a Tallahassee area kid from Florida State, 2-10 or not, is no joke. So fingers crossed on that one, but he's right there. Amari is for the taking. Darius Gray is the out-of-state five-star target for this class that the Gamecocks have a good shot at getting. I was pretty confident there for a while, and I'm still somewhat confident. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes, folks. LSU is the other school in this one. I believe it'll be LSU or South Carolina. I think, Clemson, Tennessee, some of those other schools are in the hunt, but I think it's going to be one of those two. Right now, it could go either way, but who knows? I don't think it's going to get much past August either. And I know on our message board on thebigspur.com, Puck, shout out Puck, shares that opinion with me. He's kind of familiar with some of these situations. But and I've always kind of felt like it would not drag out quite that long, to where the season gets here and all that. I mean, the guy made 8 official visits. I mean, there's not much more. It's to the point where there's not much more research or anything anybody can do. It's just going to come down to a business decision. And I'm not just talking about money either, because LSU's pitch is certainly not about money. To him, it's about, their offensive line that they've put in the NFL and all that good stuff. But he's an important target. Gamecocks have been strong with him for a long time. The stronger, longer theory would apply for South Carolina here. And we'll see what happens. I remain confident, like I said, but I believe I would describe my feelings about him as supremely confident last week. I don't know that I would say I'm supremely confident now. And a lot of times people accuse me. Accuse is kind of a strong word. People believe that I may be setting the fan base up for a downfall. I don't do that. You know, there are certain sensitive situations, where maybe there's information that I have, or one of my colleagues at the Big Spur, or people on the show, Jamie Bradford and Phil, maybe we have information that would be negative, but because it's a sensitive situation, you hold it. Just because it's not really major breaking news. I resigned from being a journalist a long time ago because the word makes me sick because of what it's become in our society. So I don't really sit there and follow a journalist creed. My job is to communicate with you folks, the fans. I am a person that communicates and entertains a group of sports fans. That's all, not, and the entertainment part's a big part of it these days. But it's not like I'm, sitting, sitting here holding every negative thing, because we don't do that. I mean, obviously, but you're talking about, when you're talking about players and young people and recruiting decisions, very personal types of things. And if information got out bluntly, it's not necessarily the information, it's the reaction. And then the fact that, whereas it used to be you'd put something out and the message board may react to it, or folks may read about it in the newspaper or online, but now we have this big, beautiful thing called social media. And, you have a subsection of every fan base that just takes it and believes it's their divine right to go and express their opinion on the subject, to the masses, and also to the subject of the information. And, sometimes that's not what we do. Sometimes it is. John Whittle's baseball article, absolutely true, and was not positive, right? But that's kind of it. I don't. So my point is, I'm not trying to set anybody up with Darius Gray. I'm just, it's behind. When you have these behind the scenes things, and it's well, lack of a better term, a negotiation at times in recruiting these days. You don't want to upset the balance, and if you're me, you just want to let the chips fall where they may. So I'm reasonably confident. Let's just put it that way. All right, so here's a guy, very intriguing player, Justin Onkoronquo. I think I got the correct pronunciation yesterday. It was at Alabama last year, at Carolina this year. Promising linebacker, will be in the rotation, listed at 6'3", 231. By the way, that's up about 16 pounds from what he was listed at, I think, when he came in. He's from Germany originally, Sprachen Sie Deutsch. And that was the time on Sprockets when we dance. I love that. So they got him. He's part of an organization, Coach Collier heads it up, that kind of gets European players to the States, all that good stuff. And he's got, there's another player Carolina's interested in from that organization, Gustav Heinrich Ross, I think's how you say it. He's Swedish. Oh, that's awesome. Swedes. I think there's Scandinavia, just to be honest, probably has some dudes with some football builds, wouldn't you think? Just think about it, you know. Um, Thinking about the Vikings. But this guy's 6'4", 230, did an interview with Phil Kornblut. By the way, you can catch Phil's sports talk show 6 to 8 every night on the Chief Sports app live, the iconic sports talk, where this guy talked up South Carolina and Sterling Lucas. He's an edge prospect. It looks like there's a visit set to Boise State. Now, he's from Sweden, so Boise State and the weather, it's probably not going to be applicable. But he's set up to go to Boise State. He's the Boise State kind of type of guy. Florida State, Ole Miss, Georgia had him in camp. A&M offered him as a tight end, Texas A&M. 6'4", 235. But South Carolina is also going to get an official visit, according to this article, probably early in the season. So SC State Vandy weekend, he may be taking his official. Raw guy, obviously, like most European players, but big and strong. I could see this dude being really good. Obviously, after missing out on Carter Meadows and Julian Walker, and then they're going to still go on Zion Ely, the 5-star player from Maryland. And I don't think they're done talking to Walker either. And if Meadows wanted to come, they'd take him too. Don't get me wrong, but they probably need to sign an edge or two in this class, and this guy fits the bill. Tough kid. There's such a wide delta that I've seen with European players over the years. It's usually kind of feast or famine. They're either really good or they just kind of get there, and they're too far behind with American football. But Coach Collier, like I said, he's sent some good ones to the States, and he's part of that organization, so you trust it. And then finally, in state, Caden Ramsey, the tight end prospect from Cross High School, 6'5", 208, a baller, a football player, a guy, a small school South Carolina kid. Love him. I've told you guys, got some feedback about him while I was in town for the wing eating contest, and it was overwhelmingly positive. And then I talked to another contact that is familiar with him, connections all over high school football in the state, and he was like, "Man, this kid." He said he didn't think. My second contact didn't think he's a tight end. He thought he was like Mike Williams, who went to Clemson. If they can get Mike Williams out of him, I'm all for it. Right? Happy about that. Mike Williams was a great player. Carolina messed that recruitment all way up. He could have been the next great one from within the state, and they, for some reason, the Spurrier staff at the time wasn't too high on him, and then that one bit him in the butt, because some people weren't too high on Alshon Jeffrey and Sidney Rice and Ace Sanders either. And luckily, their cooler heads prevailed. But that one, and then there was some confusion because Jay Graham, not Jay Graham, who was it? There was a coach that left that was his recruiter or something. It got all twisted. And he went to Clemson and did well. But so if this kid, Caden Ramsey's like that, that's fine too. I mean, I think, there's stats floating around out there for last year at Cross. It said he had 13 interceptions. If that's accurate, because high school stats sometimes are not, 13 interceptions in a high school football season, that's like one per game. I don't know how many games Cross played last year, but it's one per game. Number one, who at that level in South Carolina high school football on the other side decides it's a good idea to throw it a lot? And number two, wow, that's ball skills, man. I'm excited about that guy. They lost, obviously Tilden Riley's going to Vanderbilt if he hadn't already committed. I just quit following it from Orangeburg Prep. Liked him. Good player. Going to Vanderbilt reminds me of Eli Stowers. Not that there's anything wrong with him. Well, they missed on him and offered Ramsey, and I don't know that Ramsey won't be better. Both are going to be pretty good. I don't know if they want to be better. And then Jamel House, who's been committed for a long time, from Newberry, 4-star composite guy. I think that whoever rated him the highest got that right looking at his film. He's a stud too. So the direct quote from me from my contact in Columbia was, there are 3 potentially elite tight ends at the state this year: Ramsey, Riley, and House. So you get 2 of the 3, call it a day. You got Mike Tyler, who weighed in at about over 250 pounds, from Hammond, who Carolina flipped. Another flip. They flipped him from LSU last cycle. He'll develop, and that room keeps right on chugging along, right? So very excited about him. So of these 5, Carolina gets all 5. That's going to bring him up to 18 commits. Darren Usher yesterday during that epic interview said probably 15 to 20 high school players. And then there's the flip candidates. I mentioned Julian Walker. And I don't know that any of these are definite flips. With Julian, like I mentioned, yes, his dad's on staff at Carolina, but he is a coach's kid, didn't grow up in South Carolina, deep roots to the Midwest, Chicago family. I mean, his dad's from right up the road where I'm at right now, Buffalo Grove, Illinois. And, family all over the place. Michigan up here is a big, big deal. So, that's not as egregious as like some of the other guys 2 years that were lifelong South Carolinians that have gone to Michigan. And outside of Junior Hemingway, none of them did anything. I tend to think Julian Walker's still going to be a pretty good player, even if he sticks with Michigan, but they're not done with that. He's right there in the backyard. Pierre Dean, oftentimes when a player goes back and forth on signing day, on announcement day, uh, with Kamari Blair, the reason I believe, without ruling anything out, that Kamari Blair, the offensive tackle from Clarksville, Tennessee, that committed a couple weeks ago, will stick with Carolina is my understanding with him. The reason he went back and forth was he just doesn't like making decisions. And so then people ask, well, why would you commit? Why not just hold off? Well, the answer is they want to get it out of the way because they don't like making decisions. And then once they make it, they don't want to go back and make another decision. There are people like that. It's psychology. And that's why through the years, I've seen a lot of recruits that on signing day or announcement day or whenever, they're up in the air because they hate the process. I think it's because they don't like telling people no. I'm not saying that I haven't experienced situations like that in my life, but it's common, and so it kind of comes down to the wire. But then they make the decision, and they're happy with it, and they don't want to go back to make another decision, and that's why a lot of those guys stick. It's not just a given. Now, Pierre Dean's a different type of situation. My understanding is that communication probably will continue. Now, his brother went to Georgia. Georgia has a really good recruiting class. Georgia has a hell of a program. Georgia also has a bunch of commits. And, talking to some folks on that end, their biggest concern now that they have all these commits is keeping it intact because Georgia's fighting some of the same battles money wise as the Gamecocks were with these, Texas schools and whoever front loading deals and having, stupidly blowing a ton of cash on a high school player. Good, happy for the high school player. Got accused yesterday by someone on the message board. And really, this person's not too smart, but that I don't see the value in players. And maybe I'll get into that on the show. I disagree with that. I've done a lot of work the past however many years in making sure players at South Carolina get money. Why would I not see the value in it? I just don't see from a football standpoint. I think that, with the transfer portal and with the undeniable fact that football is a developmental game for everybody. I don't know what you're paying for. In other words, you're paying for recruiting rankings and hype. Are you paying for substance? And I'll tell you this right now, in the sport of football, we're in college football, especially the media and everybody else. They're in a like a fog. I'll call it the Saban fog. I think, and it's very surface level. And again, we live in a world where a lot of people that claim to be journalists don't look at details. It's like surface level information and then their opinion. And that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But for 17 years, we had the greatest dynasty in the history of the game. Alabama, even when they didn't win it all, they were very good, very consistent. They were a lot like Dawn Staley's basketball team at Carolina in the women's basketball, if you think about it. Always got the best players, always did this and that and the other. Football is different than basketball as far as how you develop. What they didn't understand was, yes, Alabama signed the number one class in the country, and yes, there are a lot of future NFL guys. But go back and listen to Saban and look into kind of what that program was all about. And yeah, they signed highly rated guys, but they also signed the right ones. Those that could take the coaching, those that could develop, those that weren't entitled. And that's why he got out. because his system doesn't work. Like he said, he was sitting with Miss Terry. Miss Terry's like, all they want to talk about is money. And he's like, well, you know, what are we going to do about that? And he is all for players getting paid and all that stuff. And so that's my thought about it, you know, and I think what a lot of people think when they see $800,000 this guy, teams with high school recruits, not the transfer portal, high school recruits paying these egregious sums like the D tackle from Buford, $1.6 million for a high school defensive tackle. Um, Anybody will tell you defensive tackles are the greatest athletes on the field. But because of that, they're hard to motivate because they're huge, they're athletic, everything's come really easy, and they meet their match in college football many times. It takes work. Ask TJ Sanders. I mean, it takes work. And you give a young person that kind of money, it statistically, it'll show you that, there's a motivation factor there. And I'm not saying don't pay them. I'm just saying, the Saban fog makes the media look at that and go, oh, they got all these 5 stars and they're just outspending everybody and they'll be great. No, that's, there's another step or 5 that before these players become great. And so you're gambling quite a bit when you do that. And so that's all I got to say about that. But I absolutely believe in the value of college football players and college athletes in general. My work and my actions back that up. I'm not a big virtue signaler, and I think that not entitlement, but the victim mentality that everybody has these days, or not everybody, some people have these days, and the crusaders for, I tend to think that's just like a personal or a political viewpoint. I think some people do it because it makes them feel better about themselves. But I wanted to be clear. Absolutely. All this talk about overpaying on my end is about football. It's not that I don't want these players to make money and their families to be fine and all that. It's America, for goodness sakes. Anyway, I wanted to clarify that. Explain myself. I spend too much time explaining myself. So anyway, Pierre Dean, will Samari Matthews and Tamarian Watkins kind of enter the chat as far as flips go? Right now, you hear different things about Watkins. I don't know. There's people around Rock Hill that still think he'll eventually stay at home. Samari Matthews, on the surface, you'd think he was probably not more of a, but I hear a lot more about that, So who knows? And the details, a lot of folks are thinking August 1st when they get their contracts, it'll be less, whatever. I don't know. So I don't know if any of these 4 will flip, but they're candidates. And then there's other flip candidates out there as well. Amari Thomas, I don't know if he would be, I guess he would flip. That's a flip. Usually the flip happens right away, but these days, who knows? All right, folks, be sure to tune in to the morning show, the 3 amigos, McGranahan, Crawford, and our guy Rob Williams finally gets his shot. Today, we got Alex Jones with the Smorgasbord on the show afterward. Sports Talk from 6 to 8 p.m. live on the Chief Sports app. And then also, we had a late night Gamecock show last night with the late night Gamecock Matt Anderson and Alex Jones. It is up on our YouTube channel. Please like, subscribe, share, spread the word. We appreciate each and every one of you. JC Shurburtt's coffee's over. I'm out. Holla at you soon.